This week on the Road to Cinema podcast, actor Adam Brody. In his over 2-decade career as an actor, Adam Brody played Seth Cohen on the Fox hit drama series The O.C., co-starred alongside Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and starred opposite Meg Ryan and Kristen Stewart in the film In the Land of Women. We'll take a look back on how Adam's career developed in film and television. We'll discuss Adam's many collaborations with top directors and writers such as the Oscar-nominated Whit Stillman, playwright and screenwriter and director Neil LaBute, as well as his collaborations with Kevin Smith, which includes Yoga Hosers and Cop Out. We'll take a look back on what led Adam to star on The O.C., his thoughts on the show today, and the impact The O.C. would have on his career. We'll also delve into his new Crackle drama series, Startup, which is also available on Amazon around the world. We'll also have an open conversation on what it means to be an actor in film and television, what Adam hopes to find in an actor-director collaboration, how his goals have changed over the course of his career, and what inspires him today, and how that's changed since he first started. For more information on the Road to Cinema podcast, please visit jogroadproductions.com. You can follow us on Twitter @JogRoad, Instagram @JogRoadProductions. You can like our Jog Road Productions Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe to Jog Road Productions on YouTube to see some of our video interviews with Don Cheadle, Ewan McGregor, Greta Gerwig, and many more. You can subscribe to the Road to Cinema podcast on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher to have the latest episode downloaded every week. And now we join our conversation with actor Adam Brody as we discuss his early inspiration for becoming an actor and the very first steps in his career. So I thought we could begin by talking a little bit about when that initial point was where you thought you could work as a professional actor. Was there sort of a fork in the road where you saw that you could actually do this full time?
It was a real shot in the dark, actually. I mean, it wasn't a fork in the road. It was like, let's throw this random thing against the wall and see if it sticks in a year. And if it doesn't, we'll figure something else out. And that was me on like my 19th birthday, more or less. I grew up in San Diego, and I had no acting experience, so to speak, at the time I tried to be a professional actor. My only, in hindsight, I look back and I go, oh, there was that moment when I was 12, which, I thought, I think I was inspired by like Macaulay Culkin, who was my age, and is Home Alone. And I thought as a kid, I had some knowledge that, he's an actor, and that could be really, River Phoenix was a big idol growing up when I was young. And I told my parents I'm from San Diego, and they both worked full time. I said, I'd like to try acting. And they said, and what that meant, I guess, professionally at that time was like, should I be in a JCPenney catalog, or should I go, could we go do some commercial auditions? That's like the way in, you think.
You weren't thinking about theater or anything?
Not at the time. I was like, let's I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I'd like to be a 12-year-old movie star, but let's see, but what does one do to achieve that? I suppose you have to be a model first or something. That's what, you know what I mean? That it seemed like that was. Anyways, they're like, well, look, we're not going to be able to drive you up for auditions. We work, but you should start in some theater and see how that goes. And so I did one play. I did Inherit the Wind, my community theater, but it was an adult, Inherit the Wind is done by adults, as it should be. It's an adult play, but I think it was a newspaper. I think I said extra, I read all about it a few times, and had to go to a bunch of rehearsals for it. And I had like 2 lines, and I don't remember much besides being like, well, fuck that. That was a lot of work and not a lot of payoff, and also, and then I went a different. I didn't really think about it. As any sort of interest. I didn't do it in high school. I was pretty much I don't want to say I wasn't a bum. I just didn't have any interest in school. It really was like watching paint dry to me.
So even like through the theater department in high school or anything?
Not at all. I was 100% committed to surfing. That was what my new, full-time goal and identity was being a surfer. In high school. And even though at a young age, even at 14, 15, as a surfer, I knew that I'm not going to be a professional surfer. I'm not that good, and I'm not that talented. But I figured, well, I'll make it my life somehow. I don't know. Maybe I'll own a surf shop, which, that's a hard goal to run your own business. But at the time, it seemed like, I'll do that. I'll be very happy doing that. And anyways, I got into, so I sort of purposely, not that any great colleges were calling my name, but, a couple state schools I sort of didn't go to on purpose because I still was so uninterested in school. I thought, what could I possibly study? I don't know what I want to be. And I'm looking forward to having the weekdays off or half the weekday where I can surf and nobody's around. And so for that first semester out of high school, I went to a community college and was taking 2 classes just to bide my time. And I was working at Blockbuster Video, so it was 98, so I remember very much that new release wall is indelibly printed on my memory. All those movies from that specific era. Anyways, so I was watching a lot of movies with my free rentals. I moved in with some buddies. Surfing, but I quickly, I turned out more ambitious than I thought, at least. And, a desolate beach in October very much has its charms for a surfer. But at the same time, even at 18, I was like, oh, I don't know that this is going to be, I already feel retired. I don't know that this is going to be a life, this is going to be a fulfilling, no, I'm bored. I'm bored and I feel like the party's elsewhere and everyone's gone. Anyways, my roommate buddy, who was about 4 years older than me, we had a friend, it was his friend who was also older than me, who lived in, had lived in San Diego, was a surfer, moved to LA, was living with his mom, but he had some luck. At the time, it was, enormous. He was a bar back, which in and of itself sounded cool. If you were working at a cool bar off the Sunset Strip, that was amazing. But he was a guest star on one episode. He's a bad kid on the Power Rangers on an episode, and a couple other things. We're like, let's just go. He lived with his mom in Marina Del Rey, and I remember very specifically, me and my buddy went and stayed with him for a night, and he showed us around, and we drove down the Sunset Strip, went to the Coffee Bean in the Sunset Plaza. I'm 18 at this time, and he showed us his tape, his reels. And I remember one of them, he showed us it was on VHS, his Power Rangers. He showed us this one student film, and we're just that's the coolest thing ever. If one day we could have our own footage like this, let's try it. So we said, let's just try it. What do we got to lose? So anyways, a month later, me and my buddy, December of 98, moved up to LA, and I just decided we'll join acting class. And I just felt like, look, I'll jump in. I know it's a whim, but I'm aimless right now anyways. And now that I think about it, it certainly interests me. And who wouldn't it interest? You know what I mean? It's a dream job, so anyways.
Did you feel comfortable when you were in the acting class? Did it sort of hook you?
It clicked pretty fast. Yeah, I definitely hadn't acted, and I was pretty I didn't know if I was good. I had no idea, honestly, and I also didn't know what made a good actor necessarily. And in fact, I was probably too focused on not that I thought I was a great beauty, but you think looks are so much of it when you start. I think you do, anyways. At least we did. Why is that guy such a big actor? He's ugly, or that kind of thing. You'd never understand Bogart as a kid, or at least I didn't. Anyways, so yeah, I didn't know that I would be any good, but I decided to jump in, and I thought if I don't make any, I'll just let it consume me. And if I don't make any progress in a year, I'm realistic, I'm objective. I'm not going to sit around and But if I have any success, then we'll keep going. And anyway, so that was the point where I just thought, let's just try it. What do I have to lose? Give it a year.
Do you remember what the first thing you auditioned for was?
I don't remember the specific first thing I auditioned for. No, I remember, a handful of my early auditions. I mean, it was sort of a flurry because I got very lucky, and I think my first, within a year, I was a working actor. It was pretty amazing, pretty remarkable. It was also at a time when, the late 90s, when 1999, when I think I think it's probably the same now. I know it was the case then. If you were 20 years old, you could just work. Everyone I knew could work. You know, there's a lot of high school stuff. They need a lot of people to play high school, and there was a ton of content. And, you know, the older you get, people fall away that, you know, don't have, I don't know. I mean, for a whole bunch of reasons, but at that time, it felt like everyone I knew could kind of, and I know you know, that might sound jaded
but it's true. At that time, there were a lot of teen movies, teen TV shows. So if you were coming up in your early 20s,
if you were 20 and you had an agent, you could probably. I'm not saying you'd be a very successful actor, no, but I just mean like everyone, you know, people I knew could work in a way that not everyone is now. Those same people who have, a lot of them have gone back, you know, become other things.
Sure. From that early acting class, did you sort of find certain things that you were comfortable with, particularly? Because comedy has been, you know, a huge part of your career.
I kind of feel like in the center a little bit, you know. It's like I'm not as funny as the real comedians, and I'm not as good a dramatist as the real, as the guys who are really good at it, women who are really good at it. However, I think I kind of straddle the worlds, and I think I can kind of, I don't want to say it's a niche, because it's, you know, but it's like, I don't know, I kind of live somewhere in between. It seems like I tend to, and it's not by design, it's just what has happened is I look at my body of work, and it feels like, oh, I'm funny in dramas. You know, it's like seems more to the case than I mean, sort of. But I definitely, there's no question I enjoy comedy more. I feel so much more creative, or it's so much more of a thrill for me to go, even if it's bad, even if the scene's bad, you know, and I go, how if the writing is poor, how can I, how many ways can I slip on a banana peel, or what can we do to like...
You're kind of bringing your own spirit to whatever...
and by the nature of comedy, a lot of it, you know, just by that nature, you end up having a lot more improv too, which means, you know, I feel like the possibilities are a little more endless with that as well. With drama, you know, I feel a little more defensive, like, all right, sometimes I'm really inspired, and sometimes but I'm also like, well, how do I just like make this speech palatable? You know what I mean? I'm just gonna like try, and it's hard to say, and so what I'm gonna do is try and say it like a real person, and that will be my reward, or that will be my victory. It won't be necessarily that like I found all these great things I'm proud of, you know.
Well, when you were doing Gilmore Girls early on, that's sort of a very kind of specific rhythm, specific language in a way.
I'll tell you, in fact, if I have a strong suit, even to be more specific, it's more than comedy or drama. It is like dialogue heavy stuff. I feel like if I have a knack for anything, it's taking very wordy. You know, I'm a very verbal person. I'm not. I like to talk, and as you know, most actors do. But you know, there's the Viggo Mortensen types, and then there's me, and I feel like I've excelled with Whit Stillman, Neil LaBute, Gilmore Girls. The OC, to a certain point, was a very chatty character. I feel like I feel like I can do well with give me a ton of dialogue or a specific rhythm, and I'd actually
especially with like Whit Stillman or Neil LaBute. That's a lot to digest, and memorizing those lines and really coming on set prepared. So
that's true too. Although
are they pretty loose as well in what they and how they direct?
Well, they're opposites actually. I mean, Neil is very loose and Whit is very specific. However, I think that also Neil is very prolific, and he's writing every day and going and making something, and Whit comes out of a shell every 10 years with something. So I think his stuff is, he's also much more meticulous with what he's filming, and so understandably, he's going for he's already has it in his mind, and
between Damsels in Distress and the one he did before Last Days in Disco, that must have been a decade apart.
It was, and more. No, 14 years.
And then he did the Amazon show for him as well.
Yeah. I loved that show. It might still come around, but now with all the, change up at Amazon, probably not. But it's weird. But that show is kind of like, I thought it was going to go then. I thought it was so good, and then it didn't. And then it still sort of, I still get emails about it. it still is percolating, but I don't know if anything will ever come of it. I hope so, though, because I think Whit is a genius, and I think he's a genius, and I'm so honored that he is sort of, it's not that he's taken me under his wing, he hasn't done that, but I mean, just that he has, and I won't say I'm his muse either, but it just, whatever, he just he likes working with me as an actor, and that is a real validating thing for me. And I also am just a huge fan. So I don't know how I got started on that.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I think with Whit, I mean, if you look at Chloe Sevigny and Greta Gerwig and a lot of the people that he's used over time, you can kind of find the voice within a specific actor. So he kind of found that with you.
Yeah.
He could write for you in a very specific way.
Yeah. No, I know, and it's a very validating thing, and I hope we get to do more of it, and it sees the light of day.
And when it came to the OC, did Josh Schwartz, I've been reading things that the character was a little bit based on him, but when you came into the room, he kind of let you take it to a certain degree?
I don't know the degree to which it was based on him. I actually had never heard that before, but I think, funny enough, I think what happened more to the kid, my assumption, although I don't know, is that it wasn't based on him at all, but when I started doing it, we kind of merged, and, he kind of we were contemporaries, and we were peers, and we were friends, and a couple of Jews, and I think, I think he kind of found his voice in that character, also writing for me and also writing for himself, is my assumption.
What was your initial take on the pilot of the OC when you read it?
I wasn't, I mean, I don't know. I didn't think it was cool yet. I think first of all, I think Josh really found his stride, after, I've since gone back and revisited the pilot, not too, semi-recently, it actually really holds up. I have to say, it's like a heck of a pilot. But initially, the title even is, pretty in your face. And I don't know, I wasn't. And, the truth is, look, I love high school movies, and I love archetypes, and I love all that stuff. And, my only it's not that I didn't kind of love it, the inside of, the soul of me didn't love it as much as I love a bunch of high school stuff, but I was 23 at the time, and I was concerned about playing a high schooler for a while, if I go do a pilot and I'm however old and they can keep me in high school forever on these things, and I was already kind of trying to be an adult. And so I had optical concerns, even if personally, creatively, I was like, this is awesome, and this is,
Yeah.
And but I'll tell you, honestly, the factor for me was Doug Liman was directing it, and
This was right after Born Identity and Swingers, and
Swingers was I loved, and I haven't seen it in a long time, but I loved Born Identity. I loved Go, but Swingers was a pivotal movie in my life. At that time, Vince Vaughn was my favorite actor. I'd seen it once when I was 17 working at Blockbuster, and it didn't resonate with me at all. And then I watched it again when I was 20, 21, and, even if I was working, I was still unemployed 8-9 months out of the year, and living in a, shithole in Hollywood, and all of a sudden it made my life seem glamorous. And, I just thought, oh, it's so cool to be an out of work actor, and I'm gonna go to the Dresden and these bars and just be funny and hang with my buds. And I don't know, it just, like I said, it just glamorized my unemployed actor life in a way that, and again, I was so mesmerized by also the tone of it. I love that movie, and Vince Vaughn's performance, and I was, doing a terrible Vince Vaughn impersonation for 4 years of my acting career because of it. But anyways, so I was such a Doug Liman fan, and still am, and he's another true genius that I've gotten to work with.
I don't know at that time. I mean, I don't know if very many movie directors were coming onto television like they are now. So that must have been something very unique to have Doug Liman direct a pilot.
Yeah, I mean, at least I don't know. I don't totally know the landscape. I just know that, like, hey, that's one of the best working directors, and he's going to do this. All right, let's do it. And then like I said, I mean, I think it all coalesced beautifully and really made some special stuff for a while.
Yeah, it was interesting. That first season was so strong, and the show developed. It sort of became a different show later on. Did you sort of see the trajectory of?
Oh, I did certainly. Yeah, I did certainly. And I think mostly it boils down to, that first season we did 30 episodes. We did like a 7-episode early pickup summer release, and then we did like 23 regular season episodes. So I mean, that's just so much story we burned through so fast. And then I think the other thing is, if I could critique one thing about the writing, it's just simply I don't think they stretched out the storylines enough. I think they, I think anyone would have burned through too much story and, that fast anyways. But I also think, had I designed it for more longevity, because it was a fairly short-lived show for as kind of popular as it was, I think it definitely evolved or devolved. And again, I just think there was too many episodes, and I think if anything could have been done differently, it would be that you just need to stretch out the makeups and the breakups and keep people apart longer and really, really, really milk the story versus, gratifying every episode, in which case, the tension dissipates and it becomes something else.
Finding, what you wanted to do with Seth Cohen over that first season, for you, did that evolve in terms of the choices you were making, how you approached the character? Were you able to collaborate with Josh at all in terms of
very much? I mean, it's not that I wasn't giving story suggestions. I wasn't involved in, arcs or anything like that. But first of all, it wasn't Curb Your Enthusiasm, but they were definitely like, hey, say whatever you want. They're very lenient with the dialogue. And if you want to try some other stuff, by all means, try some other stuff. And a lot of that stuff made it. And it's funny because I then I had this reputation for being like the improv king of like teen drama, which is, I guess in that regard, it's true. But like, I certainly am not a great improvisational actor. I've never gone to Groundlings. I don't feel that quick on the draw. I feel much better if I have time to think about it and go write a joke than I do in the moment, just like looking for inspiration. And I don't feel particularly gifted at that. It's just like if you're in a melodramatic world with everyone being serious and then you're given the green light to like not wink at the camera, but at least undercut the drama.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden,
you and Peter Gallagher were very much in that space.
Yeah, and it very much, and then all of a sudden it's easy because you can puncture it with just a little pinprick. So I mean, I almost, it's a little embarrassing in a way to have had that reputation, given that, I wasn't spinning gold, but it was, but anyways, Josh and I became we all were very good friends too. It was a real social group as well. There's a bad guy named Volchok in it who is named after my agent, who's still my agent, who ended up marrying and has 3 kids with the woman Nicole, who was wardrobe on the show. And I mean, it's a very I won't say incestuous because there's that almost sounds bad, but it was we were our own little ecosystem and for that period in time, and we were filming down in Manhattan Beach, kind of away from everything. It was pre-internet almost, in terms of like certainly pre-social media, and so it also didn't feel like fame was the burden it certainly could be now. Still felt like we're pretty much left alone, and I don't know how I veered off there, but in terms of collaboration, like I said, I was just kind of along for the ride, and they were definitely writing for me and wrote some of my friends into the show, and and it was, they also wrote, some of my favorite band at the time was became the character's favorite band. And while all that, is a blessing and a curse, because on one hand it was great because it's like, I don't even have to act anymore. They're just, you know what I mean? And at the same time, it's like now when I relive it, or sometimes I have like a little disdain for it, but it's just disdain for myself circa 2003, 4, like.
Just critiquing your own performance, or?
My tastes, my everything, it's just like my 23, 4, 5-year-old self does not speak for my 37-year-old self, and nor do my taste. There's obviously some similarities and shared DNA there, but I like to think I've evolved, and I feel like my character was such a pop culture referencing character. I mean, he was part of pop culture himself, but he was also, I feel like he almost was 2003, Yeah. And so I do chafe at the character occasionally, but only because, like, in some ways it wasn't so much a character. I mean, it was, but it was also like very much me at the time, and I just can't help but not want the 23-year-old me to be speaking for me forever, because I share a few of the same likes and dislikes.
Well, it's interesting that the OC had a really strong ensemble, and did you feel that paid off in how scenes were playing out and the chemistry between everybody? Do you think that contributed to the success of the show?
Yeah, it was a wonderful cast, and everyone, and it was a fantastic ensemble. We all tons of chemistry, and I think we all worked really well. I think it was I think Peter and I, but then everyone eventually, because everyone got into the spirit. Ben McKenna, everyone did, but I think certainly Peter and I, and just in general, as a new family dynamic. It was just this mashup, it became a dramedy, versus the straight drama, the 90210 or whatever, which I loved growing up. Let me just add that, like, I fucking loved 90210, and I loved Melrose Place.
But there wasn't very much humor.
No, and that was the difference. And that was, I think that was the most novel thing. There's humor and self-reference, in a way that those shows never did. And
you were sort of sometimes you would, as your character, you would comment on some of the more melodramatic moments that were happening.
Yeah.
Almost kind of bring light to them.
Yeah, no, it was much more meta of a show and self-aware, and, I don't know. And in a certain way, that probably, I don't want to say tonally that was a problem, but again, I think that in some ways that lightness also was detrimental, in that it undercut the drama that you need for people to be deeply invested in 100 episodes of, I think. I don't know.
Well, did you sort of see the show as a way to open up for you career-wise?
Certainly. That was, I'll be perfectly honest with you. That was my main reason I did it. It was not a be-all, end-all. I was like I said, purely.
So at that point, when you committed to the OC, where was your career in your mind?
It was fun. It was like, I felt like I'm definitely in this business. I'm working. I can't say I'll work forever, but I feel like, I've worked consistently enough, and now was feeling confident enough in my work and sort of the landscape that, like, I wasn't desperate, put it that way.
Yeah.
I was,
You'd had recurring roles on.
Yeah. I was probably a little, I don't consider it cocky, really, because I think I was right. But, like, I was just confident. But like I said, I had worked, and I think that's borne out over my life. But anyways, I was very much, that was meant to be a stepping stone for me. Now, probably it'll just be on my tombstone, but that's okay. But that was meant to, I was, mostly because of the age of it, it was just that, like, look, I'm 23. I hope this isn't the only, that I'm forever high school. And so that was my main concern, but I thought, well, first of all, it's great. It'd be great to be on a hit show. It'd be great to be on just go do a pilot and get paid, and great, work with Doug Liman, cool. Wasn't even thinking that long term, but it's like, I didn't get a pilot I really wanted that. In fact, I tested for another pilot called Jake 2.0 that year that was on UPN, that was about it was more like a Chuck, which is the Josh Schwartz's show he did after the OC. It was like a nerdy dude who becomes a superhero, and I thought that was awesome. And that, obviously that didn't have the same impact, but that's the one I really wanted, and I didn't get it. Yeah, but he was also playing an adult, more like, as somebody in his 20s. And so the high school element, again, I was just weary of that main thing. And so I was going, yeah, but hey, if it's a hit, I'll get to do some movies probably.
Yeah. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which was also a Doug Liman movie. You got to work on that during the OC. And then eventually the lead role in The Land of Women, which I think was your first lead in a feature film. Is that...
Yeah, it's my first real solo, this is your movie lead. Yeah, I think it might be still my only. I guess I've had a couple more. But yeah, it's true. And the show is it afforded me so many opportunities, and at the same time, I have to say it was semi hard to capitalize on them because we filmed 9 months a year. So to be a lead, to do anything serious, I could go pop in for a couple. I could do Thank You for Smoking. I could do Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I could cameo for a day or 3. But other than that, I was going to get to do one thing a year, and it had to be able to schedule when I was scheduled. So it was a little.
It was a double-edged sword.
It was a double-edged sword because finally I had all this, interest, and then I couldn't. There's a lot of things I couldn't do. And at the same time, I will admit now, I was also probably, a little too frozen. There's not much. I don't have much that I passed on, and I won't even say it because it would be rude to the people who did it, and they're laughing at me now. But I passed on a few things. I didn't, like I said, just scheduling wise, I didn't have that much opportunity, but the ones I did that internally I would have loved, I was like, I have no problem with these tropey movies, but I know they're not cool, and I'm so concerned with, I'm already on this high school show and it's already this teen show, and I've got to show my taste somewhere. It is my taste, but I've got to really show that I'm an intellectual too, and I'm fans of indie stuff, and let me please show that. And if I don't show that, and I pick something that is, also a little dumb, and then, or not also, but then if I pick something that's a little less than highbrow and it doesn't work, then I'm buried. And oh man. And in truth, and so I didn't, even though I would have had fun doing these things, and they sort of turned out to work for, their own, in terms of hits anyways, but some didn't, some did, but and I sat on my hands, and like I said, this wasn't the opportunity wasn't multitude. It was just, but a few things, where I sort of thought, no, I've got to be cool. And in hindsight, I would have it's fun to work. And like I said, I didn't even internally have a real problem with them, except I knew it wasn't the cool thing to do. But I'm like, I'll be in a silly high school, or not high school thing, but again, I don't want to give away which things these were, but I would enjoy performing in these things, even though I know they're not, you know what I mean? I know they're not idiosyncratic cinema. And I guess so anyways, like I said, I had some opportunity, and I sat on some of it, and I took some opportunities. And
what was it that you saw in the script for In the Land of Women that convinced you that was something to commit to?
I thought it was beautiful. The movie is both works and has some failings. It's, I think it's, what's nice is it sort of seemed to have kind of have its own little, I won't say following, but it seems like it has its fans. But I will admit, I don't think it came out as, I don't know. I was so young when I read it. Jonathan Kasdan, the director, was so young when he did it. And I guess maybe I was wowed by his youth. I don't know. But everyone agreed. I think that this was a beautiful script, and I really it had this, he was so influenced by his dad, Larry Kasdan, so influenced by Cameron Crowe, and it had that very few movies do, but it was at once human and personal, and yet the stuff of movies, it's and yet had these Jerry Maguire moments, which again, that is a movie that is very human, full of emotion, full of real characters, and at the same time is just knows it's a movie and like loves movies, loves a good close-up, loves these cinematic moments that make, and it's, now you get very few of those. There's less of that. This is an adult dramedy, but we're going to shoot it in a way. These are giant. This is made to be on the big screen, and this is made for an audience to, Now it's, and I like big movies too, but I mean, there's less of that. But anyways, it was written with that in mind too, where I just thought, I don't know, the voice was just it, at once it was his own, and it was also reminiscent of all these classic movies, and here it is, ripe role for me to play a 26-year-old struggling writer.
Opposite Meg Ryan.
Opposite Meg Ryan. Like, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
No-brainer. I was lucky to get it, happy to get it. And Jonathan and I also had Jonathan was brought into the fold. He became good friends with Josh Schwartz. He was hanging out with all of us. He was very much a peer and actually the best friend of mine for a few years there.
After the OC, what were some of your plans at that point in terms of how you saw your career going forward from there?
I didn't know, I sort of wanted, I didn't know, I was still in a little, still in the same situation. I thought, like, well, I have some heat, and I want to use it the right way. And so I sat on my hands sometimes, and then again, I don't regret much in terms of things I didn't do, but I do understand a different mindset now of A, they don't make that many things. B, they just don't. There's not that many things. There's not that many movies being made at any given point. There's very few. B, you like to think like, hey, if I just stay clean, I don't do anything bad, everyone will remember that I'm so cool, right? No, they know who's on the poster last week. They know who was in the movie last week. That's who's getting cast. Like, the farther you are from being in a hit, the farther you are
so
from
you really
its
have
content.
to stay present in what's happening.
And I feel like work begets work, and I understand that in a way that I didn't now. That said, look, I also felt like there's this pivotal moment about 6 months after the show ended. I was cast as really the lead role. The Flash was sort of the lead role in the Justice League, the George Miller's Justice League. And I, in a way, felt vindicated. I was like, it's not that I think I'm so amazing. I just look around and think like, well, yeah, there's probably a spot for me for a moment. I probably get to have a moment here, if so-and-so and so-and-so, and I'm looking at the field and thinking like, well, what do I have to offer? And I don't think I'm one of the undeniable greats. I definitely don't. And in fact, I would say I've been humbled more through time. Like, I probably thought I was better. I think I probably thought I was more special 10 years ago than I do now. But at the same time, I think I had a realistic enough, understanding of the sort of the competition and the jobs and the scarcity. Anyways, I got this movie and I thought, I'm vindicated. Great. This is an awesome movie with an awesome director. I loved the script. I really did. It was like the initial script. I could go down a rabbit hole of what happened there. But anyways, it was a great, really great script.
This is George Miller?
Yeah. And it was that script would have worked. Anyways, and I thought, great, I'm vindicated for not doing the things I didn't need to do. I didn't need to. And like, my number was up, and I played my cards right, and I was patient, and here we are, and I have this thing, and it's going to be really good, and it's also going to give me all this capital to go green light 5 other indies I want to do, you know what I mean, and finally implement my taste. Even though this was my taste, I was like, I like this movie. I'm very happy to be here. And also, like I said, it was like, this was the ultimate stepping stone that's going to buy me a decade of options, of getting to do things I really, I really like. And then it didn't happen. And even in the moment, I wasn't even I wasn't upset. I wasn't distraught. I mean, I wanted it to happen, but I already felt like pretty vindicated by just being cast in it. And I thought like, well, all right, we'll get the next one. And,
so it really is a process of learning sort of the balance between the business and what you want to do sort of personally and artistically. And also like the balance of like
not self-respect, but like just image, you know. I think like, and confidence, and one of the things that's been nice about getting older, one of the things that's been nice about having a family, one of the things that, you know, is like, not only does the body of work start to speak for itself more than any given job you do now, it's like, well, I sort of am who I am, and I'm not, one thing's not going to change that. The world doesn't care, you know. But also, you just get a little less self-conscious, you know. I mean, I think I'll always be self-conscious to a degree. I mean, you're up on stage in front of the world, and I care, and I want to be good, and I want to be respected, but I kind of know who I am. I know what I'm good at. I know my limitations, and like, I'm also much more, I want to do things I'm very invested in, and I love creatively, and I'm also very lucky, and I say it, my wife and I say it to each other almost daily, how lucky we are to be successful in this business and have these dream jobs and get to earn like a fantastic salary doing what we do. Yeah. And so, you know, the value of that, I didn't care about that when I was 25. I was like, I'm a billionaire compared to what I was 5 years ago. The money is, you know what I mean? Like, and you know, it just like, it's not that I was making so much money. It was just that I didn't need any money to live, first of all. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, and I always felt like, well, this will be here, so it's not a concern, and I'm only supporting me right now, so who cares, you know? And now,
you're looking at it as a job in a way at that point.
Yeah, I just felt like the you know, the difference, you know, the money was already so astronomically bigger than what I was earning as a waiter 3 years before, that like it felt like that was an afterthought, and do what, you know, is best for the career. And still now you have to kind of think like, it's not just about the money you're getting on this job. It's, you know, potentially lowering your stock for the next job if that's the trade-off, or what can you get away with, or what, you know. But again, I'm just much more appreciative now of the financial security and then some. And, you know, like I said, I'm more, if not confident, I'm just less worried about what people think, which is not to say I'm not worried about it, because I am, but less.
Yeah, so you're more willing to take risks and do things kind of out of the box that maybe before you weren't.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's risks, there's out of the box, and for the right amount of money, I'll also do something awful, you know, and I don't care. That's fine too, you know, and I wouldn't have never done that 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. And, I mean, you know, I shouldn't say awful, but like, you know, I just, for the longest time, I wouldn't even consider the money if it wasn't like a proper, you know, if the work wasn't up to a really, you know, what my standards were. And now I'm much more flexible. And, you know, I mean, look, part of that's too, like, I've also been, I guess, humbled in the sense of like, I'm not the I don't have the, you know, I think of the calls and the meetings I had when I was 24, 25, and I kill for those now just because I think I'd have so much to offer. I had a fucking general with Dustin Hoffman when I was 24. A general. Just like, you should meet this guy, you're at the same agency, maybe you guys work on something together. I'm like an idiot. I'm like 24 years old. I'm very honored to be meeting him, but like, I'm sure I couldn't have interested him less and had less to say. Not that I would blow his mind now, but at least I'm like more worldly. I could talk about some things. I've read some books. I've seen a lot more of his movies.
Now, had he been familiar with the OC when he met you at that time?
I think maybe he had watched a minute of it because his agents were like, just watch it and meet this kid and you guys go play father and son in something, or I don't know, you know. But I think I had the same thing or close to it with Robert Redford. And again, these are like legends that I, as a like cocky 24-year-old, just had no business in a way. You know, I just, like I said, I'm embarrassed now because it's like, that must have been the most boring meeting for them ever, you know? And like I said, now it's not that I would blow their mind, but I at least think I would be able to bring a little more adult conversation to the table.
But it's hard because you don't really know until later on. I mean, you were still relatively new to the business and how everything functioned. So
I didn't, and I have very few regrets. I mean, it's not that I have any regrets. I look at my body of work and I look at the relationships I've made and I look at my life and I go, hey, I'm pretty satisfied with it. And, on a personal note, I'm happier than I've ever been. I'm more content than I've ever been. I feel, I also feel like I'm in a very happy, fun, thrilling phase of my life, Yeah. Well, and ironically, I stopped surfing for about well over a decade, and then I kind of moved back to the beach, and I'm a surf bum again, and it's like fulfilling to me, and but with the family, but with work, and it's like it's the union of my old life and my new life, and my old life, my acting life, and my family life, all in this beautiful little I don't know what. Something.
Well, another director who you've worked with quite a bit recently is Kevin Smith.
Mm-hmm. I've worked with him a lot.
How did you guys connect in terms of him reaching out to you so much?
Well, I auditioned for his Cop Out a long time ago with Bruce Willis and Tracy Morgan, and I actually auditioned there was a Sean William Scott kind of crazy bank robber in that movie, and they said, would you play one of the detectives? I said, of course. And we were in New York, and I spent a great summer in New York. That was a fantastic time. I know Kevin had a hellish, brutal time. He's been very vocal about how difficult Bruce was with him on that shoot. I, on the other hand, loved every minute of it. I would go, on the weekends, I'd go to Kevin Smith's hotel room. We'd get stoned. He'd show me cuts of the movie, cuts of my scenes. He let me do whatever I want in that. My character was much more straight. I got to thread in a whole goofy sort of subplot.
That was one of the bigger movies that Kevin Smith has done, on a studio level.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest budget he's done. It's also the only one he's done that he didn't write, with mixed results, admittedly. But I had a blast, and I also had a blast working with Bruce because, for me, it was, he's a legend. He's Bruce Willis. I'm just interested in being in the room with him, and for so many reasons, it was so cool. I also wasn't exposed to him for the entire time. I probably have a very different story. I don't know, good or bad, if I, had worked intimately with him for a long time. But, I share, a handful of scenes with him. But, he got to cover me as I'm running, as I'm right here. Cover me with guns as I'm, just great Bruce Willis stuff. And, he told me there's some blood, sweat, and dirt. You can never have too much of it. He told me that. He even directed me a little bit through Kevin. He's like, Kevin, Bruce wants you to do this. And I'm like, great. I don't give a shit. Bruce can direct me. I don't care. If I, that's fine. And, yeah. It was the one time I was even in the trailer, and he was, I was in my trailer, and I was just tired. This is going to sound like I'm a real dick. I swear I'm nice and treat people with respect. I really stand by that. I don't think you'd. Anyways, that said, this sounds bitchy, but I swear it's not. But the trailers, if you're in the trailer, the air conditioning makes it really loud. And so people knock a lot. They want you to come in because we're ready in 5 minutes, or can you get to the makeup, or here's just coming in, bringing in wardrobe. And, it's hard to hear from the inside and the outside of the door because of the generator and stuff. Anyways, I'm sitting, it's late at night shoot, and I'm reading on the couch or on the whatever, and I don't want to get up, and somebody's knocking, and I'm like, come in. They don't hear. I'm like, come in. I'm not screaming at them as in angry. I'm just I'm not going to get up. What I'm going to do, it's a little bratty, but I'm just going to scream, come in, so I don't have to get up. You know what I mean? And then he opens the door and was like, I was just going to invite you for a drink. Which was nice. I don't even know if he'd remember who I am, but I enjoyed that experience. And anyway, so Kevin Smith, so I've worked with him a lot since. There's nothing in that. I did Yoga Hosers. I did a pilot that I don't know if we'll ever see the light of day, but I cameoed in a. I just came in for a day or two. Yeah. I don't know. And we're buds. I don't see him that often. He lives in Hollywood and I don't. But although I did for a long time. But I'll go over there and see cuts of his stuff, and He's an avid stoner, which I appreciate. And anyways, he's fun. I mean, I'll tell you what's really fun with him. I love working with him, but he's a joy to talk to. When we were in New York filming that movie, he invited me to. He played like, I don't know if it was Carnegie Hall or something, like some...
He does those big speaking engagements.
Yeah, and it's just, he just does question and answers, you know what I mean? It's like he's really a fun, entertaining, he's an amazing podcaster. He's amazing. He's a fun, entertaining dude to have dinner with. And so maybe my most cherished stuff with Kevin is just like, we get to smoke and catch up, and I get to riff and tell him all my thoughts, and, like we're doing now. And that is a real joy for me, and I really just like rapping with him.
Well, along those lines, when you come onto a movie or a television show, what are you looking from the director to bring to you, or do you have any expectations as far as what they can do to help you make your performance better?
It totally depends, I mean, every situation is so different, every project is so different. I mean, ideally help me be good. And sometimes I'll need help. And sometimes it means please just get away from me. And, depends on what it is. It depends on if I think I'm doing you a favor, I think you're doing me a favor. I mean, it does. It depends on how much I respect you as a brain, if I think you're genius, I'll do whatever you say. And if I think I think I know better, then I'm going to chafe a little bit.
Would you ever say, hey, I'm really drowning, I need your help? Would that...
I would. I haven't, but partly that's because I think I have taken on stuff. Listen, everything you do is a little bit of a leap of faith, and you kind of, and sometimes it's fun to be like, I don't really know how I'm going to make this work. And then you kind of figure it out in the moment. And, but I don't know that I'd take on anything necessary. I mean, I would if I thought the director was great and saw something in me I didn't see, and I'm like, all right, mold me. I'll tell you where it's really helpful, actually, is I really appreciate in comedy, in improv stuff, where I had a part in Chips the last summer, and also in The League, the FX show, and both those Dak Shepard directed Chips, and he would just shout out things to me to improv. We're doing the scene and say this, say this, say this. I really enjoy that. I'm like, all the help you want. Pitch me a joke. Don't pitch me. Give me jokes off screen, and I will regurgitate them. Let's do that. That's a really fun comedic collaboration, and that's The League does a bit of that too. So I like that kind of help. Help me be funny. Actually, why don't you give me some great lines? Throw me some great lines. And Kevin does that a lot too. Yeah. I really appreciate that, because that's where I feel the most pressure. Again, drama is a little more. It's kind of baked in. You want to get there emotionally. You want to whatever, but you're not going to, on average, you're going to deviate from the lines less, and you're not really also looking to the crew for a response. But with comedy, you're kind of there is this, you're going on stage, and people aren't going to laugh too loud so you hear it while you're performing, although sometimes they do, and that's great. But, when they cut, people are laughing, you want that, that was hysterical, and I was great, this, and you came up with that when you did that, and sometimes you get it, sometimes
really
you don't.
Just working toward that reaction quite a bit.
There isn't a reaction on set with a comedy where it's not with the drama, at least not, I'm sure if you do a fantastic scene and you're weeping, people might be weeping, but I'll tell you what, that's my, I don't want to say Achilles heel, because I have a lot of them, but I have a ton of trouble getting to a place of that real emotionally raw spot. I always feel like a fraud. Quite honestly,
well, I feel like in The Land of Women, you hit on that quite a bit.
I touch it. I cozy against it, but never have I once in my acting life, to my satisfaction, gone deep enough, or what I would say painful enough. Painful. I'm not quite. I can get pretty pissed off. I can access anger all right, and a lot of other emotions, but in terms of finding that pain, very, very hard for me, and I've never quite accessed it to my satisfaction.
Well, did you feel like in that movie you had to really dig deep in The Land of Women to kind of find those moments?
I did, and in some ways I'm like, how did I even do that? I have trouble duplicating that now, but again, I didn't even then. Yeah, I dug a little, but I dug as hard as I could. It's not that my hand, I dug. Oh, I dug. But I just couldn't get, I just couldn't, to my satisfaction, not nearly deep enough.
Do you feel like you're your toughest critic in a way, even more than the director could be?
Yeah. And I think that's right. I think, some people don't watch their stuff. I wish I was that, I think it's kind of ludicrous. It's like, I understand a play, but like acting is so piecemeal. Don't you want to see what you made? Like, it's not ludicrous because the best actors don't watch their stuff. Like the best people don't, but I'll never be a true eccentric. I'll never be Joaquin Phoenix or Daniel Day-Lewis or Nicolas Cage for that matter, but, and in many ways I'd like to, but in many ways I'm just not. But I watch my stuff. I want to see what happened, and that's how I can help critique myself, and I have this sort of, I normally hate it the first watch because it's still just getting used to my voice and like my, the adjustment of, well, it's not what I thought. I looked and sounded like, and therefore what I thought I was doing. Yeah. You adjust to that, so it's kind of awful the first time, and then I kind of come around. I start to like it. Second time, I like it, and maybe even third, and then I hate it again in enough time. I hate everything I've done.
Is there anything that you've watched recently that you've been critiquing, or?
I'm trying to think the last thing I've seen. What is the last thing I've seen? I don't remember, but in general, I hate it all. I do. It's like given long enough time, I can only see the holes and the flaws. Whatever. Occasionally, there's choices I'm proud of, mostly comedic, but or sometimes your voice just like, oh, that sounded right. You sounded like you had some gravitas there, But other times, not so much, and you thought you were telegraphing something that didn't read at all, or felt, seemed just like...
Or maybe even the director picking a take.
That certainly.
On at the moment.
Certainly that. But that said, I've never felt butchered in editing. I don't have like an editing story where I thought like, I gave you this and you did this. I always feel... by and large, I'm sure there's other takes, other things, and certainly jokes. If anything, it would be jokes. It would be like, ooh, I thought that improv was good. I would have maybe gone with that. Or, It'd be like jokes. But in terms of a dramatic performance, I always felt like editors have done right by me.
Well, Startup recently, I thought you've been doing really well on that.
Thanks.
It's a great performance. It's a really fun show.
That's a real fun one. That's an ensemble I'm really proud of. I like working with everyone there, and that's a real in your face process that I really like. And literally, the camera is like closer than I've ever filmed before. They use this wide angle lens a lot, and even if they're using long lens, it's still going to be focused on the tip of your nose, but this wide angle, will just be like inches from your face, following you in your environment, and it's this real dance with JM is the main camera operator's name, and it's a real dance with him. It's like he is the third person in the scene in a way that I've never really done before.
So you're reacting to him just as much as the other actors.
Yeah. He's in. We talk to the director less than we talk to him. It's like, the director comes in every once in a while. We'll try this, but and he's talking to the cameraman too. But a lot of it is just the actors working it out with camera. Like, I'm gonna go for the keys. You could go, and then come around. I'll wait. You wait till you're there, and then we're just all dancing together. And it's But anyways, that said, it's also the most exposed I've ever felt. I'm like I said, I do more dramedy or comedy, which plays more in wide. I'm not in dramas as much. I don't have people like cameras zooming in on my iris, in a way that this show does. And so the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, this is intimate. I don't know if I'm comfortable, and I've become comfortable with it, and it's great. It's a really...
Well, there's a skill in itself of acting to the camera in a way, because the camera can pick up so much, and you can just sort of process what the scene is in your mind.
Yeah.
The camera will just instantly pick it up.
Absolutely. And stillness is, works so well. that I'd say a lot of what I've learned is stillness, and is the power of dialing it back until you want to unleash it, and the power of holding a gaze that, you're working so hard when you're young. And there's a lot of presence in not moving as well.
Have you done a lot of theater over the years too?
Done no theater. Done zero theater. I'd like to do it as a but I don't have a burning desire, actually.
So if Neil LaBute came to you and said, "Hey, I have a play, I want you,"
I would. For the right thing, I would. I definitely would not. I mean, in terms of things I passed on one prominent play I'd like to go back and do as well. I would much, if I never do a play in my life, that's fine. If I don't direct something, one thing, just to try it. I've failed I've failed as a professional. It doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be whatever. I just am so, and I don't think I'd be particularly super gifted at it. I think I'd be competent. I think at the base level I would be a competent director. But I'm not saying I don't think I'm a brilliant person as much as I think I'm, bright and affable, and I think I could bring that to directing. And I think I like, I stand by my taste sometimes more than my talent in a way. I feel like I know good stuff when I see it more than I'm necessarily able to produce it. But as are most people. Anyways, that seems so fun to me. As an actor, so much of the time you're a prop. I mean, so much, occasionally you get that big scene, and I would say more often than not, you don't have that big scene. You have a few lines where you want me to stand, cross the street. Yeah. You guys pick the location.
You're waiting in the trailer, like you mentioned before.
Well, you're waiting, that's fine. Not at that. I don't mind that, actually. I'll wait all day. I get so much reading done on set. It's awesome. Like, I get more reading done at work than I do at home. So, like, I actually, the waiting, hurry up and wait, I'm fine with. I'll take it. I'm a great napper. So, like, I'll get tons of sleep and I'll read, and that's fine. I hate doing a scene all day that I have nothing to do in. You know what I mean? And I also hate it by the end of the day, even if I'm doing a lot in, because I'm tired of doing it as well. But it's like when I'm crossing the street, well, the director, you got to cast it. You got to be instrumental. Maybe you wrote it. Maybe you're instrumental. You location scouted it. You're going to edit it. You're going to pick the music. You pick the DP. You pick the wardrobe. There's all these creative choices that sound fun, that are thrilling. I love talking about that stuff. I like talking from a producer's angle. Not so much financing, but the business side as much as, but marketing. But even that, like, posters are cool. I don't care about.
But creative
cities are creative. All the creative development I love talking about. There's not I spend a significant amount of time in the writer's room for Startup this year just because I was bored and I thought, they could use an extra person. There's not a ton of manpower there. And it was fun to have my brain think like that for, 2 weeks. Yeah, so, there's so many creative choices, even, if you're doing an establishing shot as a director, whereas if you're an actor crossing the street, you just have to remember to walk, and then you might do that all day, and it's so, it's mind-numbing.
Or a scene with 4 people, and the coverage is all on them for most of the day.
Yeah, or the coverage, or the lines, maybe. I have 2 lines. I mean, even if the coverage, if you're just not participating that much, and my most boring projects have been the ones where I took for money, and I'm this deep supporting part in some studio movies, but I'm in a lot of scenes without much to do. So I'm there all the time in these big scenes. I have nothing to do creatively. And it's, feeling undervalued. And I mean, they're still good, and it's a great way to earn a living, and I have great experiences. So it's still pretty great. I'm not, but that is the sort of least fun. And also, and yes, the hurry up and wait. I mean, again, if I'm in my trailer, that's one thing. On set sometimes, again, when you're on set, it's one thing if you can go back to a chair or something and go read. Or, if you can go read and check out, then you take your time. But if it's like, I gotta be here, which a lot of the time is that, like, you're waiting, but you can't go back to base camp, and you really can't even go back to find a chair. You might not even have a chair if you're on location somewhere. It's like lower budget stuff. You don't really have a comfortable spot. And I just got to watch them light this thing. And I'm going to watch then move sandbags and talk about this and that. And it's like, that is something where I'm like, I can't believe the amount of time.
And you as the actor, you don't have any input in that. You're there. And
I mean, impact is not my. I don't have anything to say about it either. I'm like, well, put the sandbags where you want to put the sandbags. Like, I don't know, but put the C-stand where you think it needs to go. Yeah. I'm so fucking bored watching this, but there's nothing to do. You know what I mean? There's no, so that occasionally gets,
Do you have that one passion project that you think you'd want to direct, or is it more so just finding something that you feel?
I mean, honestly, it's like it's more like I would have to write it too. I mean, I would take the opportunity to direct something I didn't write, but I also feel like that's a little bit of a cheat. It's not that. If somebody writes something special, they should get to direct it. You know what I mean? It's not that I'm coming in with so much vast experience or, that I'm like, I could direct this better than you. It's like, I think I should probably be the author throughout. And, that's my problem. I write as a hobby occasionally. I love it, but I'm the opposite of prolific. And I think that means I'm not a writer. I really like it, but I clearly, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy talking about it. And I'll tell you, I'm a fan of screenplays. I love the format. I love screenwriters. I love the math of fitting, of the structure of it. I love movies that I can see on the page. I really love a very written movie where I'm watching the movie and I'm like, ooh, this page looked so good.
It's fun to watch a movie that you love and then go back to the screenplay.
Sure. Or just imagine it. I can, certain movies more than others lend themselves to like this was a beautiful screenplay. I can see it,
Was there anything that you read that eventually became, and you were like, wow, that really was on the page. I can see why that became what it was.
Great scripts I've read. Well, I'll tell you one of my favorite. I think I auditioned or met Kenneth Lonergan for Margaret like many, many, many years ago, but that was just like, the brilliance is all over every page, and he's obviously it's a very written thing. What else? Damsels in Distress was such a cool script. It's so zany and broad and wacky, and yet out of any script I've done, it's the richest in terms of, in terms of you can go back and discover something new every time you read it, But that's also because, look, people are throwing out ideas in it right and left and philosophical, and everyone's contradicting themselves, and there's just, it's just a vomit spray of like literary and society, sociological ideas. So there's a lot to discover, and some are ironic and some are sincere, and and they're all anyway. So that Whit, and Whit himself, he's this funny contradiction of this very urbane bourgeois person who I think kind of couch surfs, you know what I mean? Like, and it has like 2 jackets, he's.
Does he live in Paris most of the year?
I don't know where he lives. Yeah, there. I hear Palm Beach. I hear, but like he meets me we go to like Joe's Coffee in the Grove. He wants to, or pizza or whatever. He likes cheap coffee. Yeah. And then he sends them back. He's like, I had to this one wasn't good. I had to have him brew another thing, of like $1 coffee. So, he's also this, like, he espouses in his work, like this very conservative ideology, and this, you'd think he's like a very right wing in some ways, and he might be, but at the same time, he's this liberal. Or he's an artiste, you know what I mean? He's this like eccentric artiste who also is like employs Chloe Sevigny a lot, who is obviously very liberal, and so he's a funny contradiction. But anyways, scripts I love on the page. I never have read one actually. I've never read one, but the Coen brothers obviously are very written, and I love that. And in a way, that's what I love, going back to even like Jonathan Kasdan, in The Land of Women. That was a beautiful screenplay. It's been a long time. I don't know I don't know how it's aged necessarily, but that was a beautiful piece of 100 pieces of paper. I mean, it really was. It looks good. I mean, I know that people that are avid screenwriters even know how to format it so it just is even pleasing to the eye, before you even read anything. It just...
I was talking to Max Landis a couple of years ago, and he mentioned, the best thing you can do with a screenplay is make it fun to read. And I think that's something that gets lost sometimes. It's more of like a mechanical document.
Very much. And look, everyone's got their own process. I mean, I haven't read a Paul Thomas Anderson script, but I hear they're just camera direction. You know what I mean? I hear they're no fun. I have no problem believing that, and if you're the director and you don't need to communicate it, you know what you're going to get, then that's fine. But I'm just, and he's also, I think, the most exciting filmmaker working, period. So it's no slander on him. Just saying, for screenplay for its own sake, I just love and appreciate, and it's a fun format to write in final draft, and I think my relationship to it obviously is as an actor all these years and reading them, and this would be me on this part of this page, and I would say this, and I don't know, it's a unique, not that unique, but I mean it's its own perspective on a screenplay too. But I don't know.
What are some of the things you're excited about doing next? Do you have another season of Startup coming up?
Got another season of Startup. I don't know where we're going to shoot because we normally shoot in Puerto Rico, which we love. Supposed to do it in January, but I don't know if we'll be able to, if it'll be operational enough for us or not. I sure hope so. Have a couple indies that I've been trying to get made that would star myself, although I would happily step away if somebody else that equaled financing would wanted to play the role.
These are projects you've been developing.
These are projects I wouldn't even say developing. I mean, people, friends of mine, and then a sort of random writer came to me and said, "Would you be in these movies? And if you want to help get made, great, but you're who we want for the lead," and so on. Yeah. And so I mean, I don't know how, I've been somewhat instrumental in developing them, but I mean, these scripts basically came to me fully formed. But I've been trying to get them made, and it's hard. They're both great. And, but it's hard. It's understandably, I mean, you make an indie, they're first time filmmakers, and it's like, you want to get $1 million. And okay, well, they want to pre-sell everything first, and so we need a cast that's going to work for free. We can pre-sell everything, so we don't lose anything. We make money before we roll film. And if you can't get that, then I don't know, and that's not where I'm at as an actor right now. I don't bring that kind of value. So it's tricky, but I also understand, because it's like, if I had the money, I don't know that I would. I'm not going to. Investing in independent film is a glamour hobby. That's not a sound business strategy. So it's not like I'm cursing the world, but that said, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying. That's one of the things I'm doing. I've got a couple movies I'm trying to get made, and looking for good stuff. I won't say what it is, but I got offered something fantastic the other day, that this indie that is would be one of the best roles I've ever had. Really, I'm like, this is a fantastic movie.
Jump on board and take it in a way.
I'm like, please, 1,000 times yes. I can't believe you called me. Thank you. And now the real question is, you say you have money, but with me as the lead, are you going to have the money you want to make this movie for $1 million? I hope you get it. Good luck to you. But we will see, So fingers crossed on that. But, I think I have a healthy skepticism.
Yeah, no, it's difficult. Some people get the money first, and then they think they're going to attach an actor and then get the money. So it's sort of a
and this kind of came as like, we have the money.
Yeah.
Basically. And but whatever, I'm just like, hey, even if it doesn't happen, it's an honor to be nominated. Thank you for thinking of me, and it might happen, in which case that would be fantastic. So I don't know, it's weird. I'm in this place where things fall out of the sky. I don't audition that much. I also turn down a fair amount of auditions because I feel like I have enough of a body of work. You want me, if I'm auditioning, I'm not getting it. Like if you're, you don't want me, you know what I do. I mean, if they're really special, hey, they love you and you're one of their favorite ideas and it's going to be you and 2 other guys and they just want to see, and it's like, then sure,
if you're passionate enough on your end to, about the role, about the project.
Yeah, very much. But it's like, put it this way, I haven't gotten an audition. And I'm good at audition, or I'm not bad, I should say. I don't buckle under the pressure. I'm pretty comfortable in those rooms. I don't audition that much, but I haven't gotten a part I've auditioned for since Cop Out, which was a decade ago. Maybe a little less than a decade ago, but 7 years ago, 8 years, and so I just feel like, it's not that I won't do it, but that's another thing. I feel like I'm old and maybe it's just an ego thing and maybe I'm too egocentric, but I go to auditions sometimes. I see people coming out of rooms like, people in their 50s who I've known their work for a long time. And I think, nah, I'll choose another, like I have the luxury, of course, must sound very obnoxious of me to say, like, no one audition where people are like, please, like, give me a shot and let me earn my bread. Yeah. I'm just saying famous people I see audition where I'm like.
People would actually be surprised what level of people actually
audition. And what level of audition movies I've been involved in. I've been involved in casting things, or like, not that the decision falls with me, but like I've been privy and seen people's tapes where I'm like, why the fuck is this guy putting himself on? Why did this guy go in the casting office?
Yeah.
He's in Saving Private Ryan. We all know who he is. Offer him the part or don't. The fact that he's auditioning, he's already not going to get it.
Yeah.
I mean, like.
No, there are many people who've won Academy Awards who are still.
Yeah, and there is a time and a place, and I would never say. Listen, I will gladly. I auditioned last week, and I'm an audition. I don't get me wrong, I do audition, but I think that, like, in general, I just have I'm very fortunate enough, let me just say. It's because I'm so fortunate to go, hey, I can earn this nice living. And whether I like it or not, I've auditioned for a ton of stuff, and I only seem to get the stuff I'm offered. So I'm sure one day I'll get something I auditioned for, but it's like, in general, that's my living. It's not what I auditioned for. It's what I get offered. So do I want to tap dance for? It's just a little bit of like, I reject you before you reject me. How about that? Before I give you free work and you say no to me, how about I just say no to you and offer only? Fuck you. and it's mostly a defense mechanism, but it's also like, yeah, I feel that if nothing else, I've worked for that. That feels good, at least, that I'm not gonna be walking around town with sides in my hand. And again, that sounds like I don't want to. It's such a good job to have, and I'm very, very fortunate, and hats off to everyone who's auditioning all the time. I don't mean to shit on people who audition. I audition. I'm just saying, one of maybe the great joys of getting to where I have, which is, a nice place, but certainly there are people far above me, is that, by and large, I make my living without auditioning now, and that feels good. Now, this is all very, I don't know, hopefully it is what it is. Yeah. If you're mad at that, I don't know.
Well, I just had I was curious, lastly, you're not on social media, and I was just sort of curious why you never ventured into being on social media.
Mostly laziness and like a disinterest, really. I mean, it's like it's not that I'm not, self-absorbed enough. I am, and it's just like I'm late to the technological party always, and now it's been so long, I kind of feel like, well, I don't want to break the seal. That said, I think I am. Like this week, my friend is running, and mostly for my friend Justin Canoe was a producer. Now he's running. He moved to Tennessee with his wife. I actually met
his father, Jeff Canoe.
You did?
Yeah, he was on the podcast.
Fantastic. Okay, well, the Canoes are rad, and he's a very, very good buddy of mine, Justin, and he's running for Congress in Tennessee. He moved to Franklin, Tennessee with his wife. And it's more for things like that I'm going to do it now. I start to feel guilty. I don't care about the work I do. They can promote. They can tweet themselves. They can whatever. But it's like, my friend's running for Tennessee, and I want to you know, if I can command this how X amount of eyeballs to go look at that and maybe donate, then like I feel guilty for not, you know, and so I want to do that, and then, you know, charitable stuff as well, and then, you know, I'll of course then self-promote as well, because if you have it, you got to, and that's understandable too, and also lastly, I suppose I do want to know what it's like to be a human in the 21st century, you know, and it's like if I never, ever, ever have any social media, even a private account, just to kind of see what it's like, I think I will be a little, you know, in the dark. Not that that's the worst thing. I mean, there are worse things to be than in the dark about social media, but I should dabble, and I'm not too worried about getting sucked in. I don't think I will, because I'm not that interested, and I plan on being very impersonal. But maybe I'll be personal. The truth is, I'm pretty, as you can probably tell, like I'm a pretty revealing person. I'm not actually that private if you talk to me. You know, I'm not like on social media, and I'm not, say, courting paparazzi, but short of that, you know, I'm pretty open.
Yeah.
So I say
an avenue to engage with people, and
yeah. So I say on one hand, like, well, I'm going to keep it impersonal, and like, I don't want to open up a dialogue with anyone. At the same time, I'll probably be very revealing. I don't know.
Check out Startup. It's on Crackle right now.
Yeah, season 2 on Crackle, and Amazon if you don't live in the U.S.
Thanks again for listening to the Road to Cinema podcast. We'll see you next time.